I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everyone, make sure your mics are on. Now let's get started. Our roll call tonight, John Daniels excused. He's out of town tonight. Also, approving of the agenda is next. Do we have any additions or deletions? Later?
The supervisor, I would request that we have a closed session at the end of the meeting to discuss the attorney memorandum I distributed to the board today.
Okay. That is added to the agenda. Any other changes or additions? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is set. Okay, we've done time for public comment. Good to see a nice crowd here tonight.
Gary, when a board member doesn't show up, do they still get paid for the meeting? Simple question.
I believe they do. Right? I mean, the members that have been here before?
Yep.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. All right. So moving on down, we'll, only comments I have tonight in the beginning is my son Travis in the back there. Thanks for chipping in there for helping with refreshments tonight. My wife's still down in Florida. And his wife set the table up, did the decorating, it wasn't him. So he's not that talented, but thanks for having me. Okay. Okay, down to the consent agenda, Mr. Wensley.
When I read these, we're also going to have a motion to reconsider the budget amendment that we did in the minutes of March 15th. So we are needing to, a motion to reconsider the budget amendment fiscal year 2015-16, the capital improvement line item for the fire department. It's line item 980.820.002, and we had, it was just a typo, it went from 60,000 down to 22,000. I wrote 12,000, and the balance was correct, but I had typoed that, so we're correcting that. So that will be a part of the consent agenda vote. So in regards to the disbursements for March 2016, the March check roster, $96,112.30. These are checks 25,930 through 26,012. We had escrow fund checks, $9,410, checks 1636 through 1641. We had a payroll last month of $65,976.04. This was taken care of by a company called Paycor for $182.50. Checks out of the sewer fund, $140,249.74. Checks 1970 through 1972. Invoices for the upcoming month of April, which we are now in. General fund $45,771.89. Invoices for the sewer fund, $7,785.50. The escrow fund, $16,181.40. We also, part of the consent agenda is the meeting dates for this current year. And we are, of course, always on the second Tuesday of the month. We do have one exception, that will be November. Of course, the general election is the second Tuesday of November, which is November 8th. So in November, we'll meet on the 15th, which is the third Tuesday. But everything else is the second Tuesday. We also have the official newspaper of record, which is, of course, the South Lyon Herald. The designated alternative is the Ann Arbor News. And lastly is the official depositories for all of our revenue for the township. We have three. We have Co-America Bank, JP Morgan Chase, and the new one that we're kind of working with, that Dale, the treasurer, is working with, is Michigan Class. So, that was a lot. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Reggie seconds it. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is passed. Okay, next on our agenda is Flag Day, which is coming up quick, which is always a special event here in the township. Looking forward to it. I know they need many volunteers, and so those of you that are looking for some fun and have a good time, we always, I'm sure that group is always looking for volunteers to help for that special day. It's a great day that promotes our town, and they do put a ton of work on this. I move that Salem Township approve the resolution 2016-0412 as attached, and grant at the request of the Salem Community Events for utilizing the township complex at 9600 6 Mile and the surrounding adjacent properties for the annual Flag Day event scheduled June 4th, 2015. Setup for events will begin June 3rd, cleanup on June 6th. In addition to utilizing the wastewater treatment plant site located at 7700 Salem Road for annual Flag Day celebration fireworks on June 4th, 2016 with the rain date June 11th. All necessary license and proofs have been provided. Also to authorize the supervisor to sign and issue the permit upon the approval of the township board. Do you have a second on that?
Second.
TJ seconds. Any other questions on it? If you're new, there's some actually new folks that are in the town hall tonight that are maybe moving to Salem, so we'd like to welcome them tonight, but it's a great day. Set that day aside because it's a fun day. The fireworks are the best, I think, anywhere you can go. Get a good seat up close, and so I know some of these volunteers have been doing this for years, and it's very important that I think that we support them, and if you're available to help, I'm sure they'll take your volunteer work. So, all right, any other questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. All right, moving down to Mr. Winsley. Cornhouse.
I move that Salem Township approve the request of the Salem Bible Church to close the McFadden Street on Sunday, August 21st, 2016 for the 20th Annual Salem Community Corn Fest between the hours of 10:30 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. per the resolution that is attached. Just to note, it is a change. They usually had it on a Saturday, but they are holding it on a Sunday this year. Do we have a second?
Support.
All right, any other? That's also another great day the church puts on across the street here, so if you've never been to it, it's a lot of fun. They put a lot of hard work into that. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Okay, now for the motion to approve the Salem Township Farm Preserve ordinance. That's the property that the township bought, 235 acres. This is an ordinance. I move that Salem Township approve the ordinance that authorizes Salem Township to designate the Salem Township Farm Preserve as a natural park and establish the rules of use for Salem Township Farm Preserve, located west of Salem Road between 5 Mile and Brookville Road. This is 235.6 acres. It is approved recreational purposes spelled out in this ordinance. In addition to the farming activities on the property, this diverse property contains marked trails for public use to streams, ponds, wetlands, and wooded areas that provide nesting areas and diverse habitat for many wildlife species as attached. You have a second on this?
I'll second it.
Any other questions on this?
Yes. I have major questions on page number 3. Horses may be walked or ridden in the preserve by persons reasonably able to restrain and control them. This is the part I'm having trouble. Horses must have an up-to-date rabies, the EHV vaccination. Who's going to enforce this rule? And if nobody's here to enforce it, why are we putting it in the ordinance?
Well, I believe it probably would be, same with the dog. So no dogs, no horses, no nothing. So I would say, again, when we first started talking about the rules and the regulations of the park when it opens, I know the Land Preservation Board had talked about these issues, and these are the things that we had looked. This is one of the reasons why the township had purchased that property, for especially this being a horse area, people having horses and a place for them to ride their horses, walk their horses. The one thing I think everybody was concerned about when you have a public park like this is the liability for the township. And what we were told, or I think Mr. Cueto, maybe if you'd like to make a comment on it, is that if buildings were erected on the property, that kind of a place, the township would be liable. But other than that, you can explain it better than I can, if you would, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The township is entitled, like all municipalities, to governmental immunity for all actions except those certain exceptions that are set out by statute. They're statutory exceptions. And none of those statutory exceptions, there's an exception for public roads, there's one for public buildings, there's for sewer system, there's a number of different exceptions, motor vehicles. None of those would apply to any of the activities that are going on at the Salem Farm Preserve. So I can't envision any activity there that would create a liability situation for the township. I know that was an item that was discussed when the township was considering purchasing the property, whether that would create additional liability to the township. And I can't see any circumstance under which that would create a liability for the township.
But I'm still having a problem here, because when we put this in here, we're assuming that every horse in the township that want to use in there, are we putting this and marking this on the trail that they have, that they can't be in here? How is this going to be, how are the people going to be educated? And if somebody wants to ride on there that doesn't have the vaccination, what are we gonna do? Who's gonna enforce it? That's my major problem, is why are we putting rules in here that we have no means to enforce?
Well, I think that's why we're creating an ordinance to, so that it can be enforceable if they don't have it, or if there's an issue where there isn't, I mean, it goes the same with dogs. I mean, you know, if a dog bites somebody in there, it's really the responsibility of the people who have, you know, they're supposed to have these. Now, again, by Ford Motor Company help, you know, Steve Schaefer's in the back there, help put a sign up there where a lot of this stuff will be posted, and it will be posted on the property. There will be these signs, I don't know, we haven't really talked about a specific sign saying that. Not to say that it can't, but I sure would be, the rules and everything will be posted on the, marquee, or whatever you wanna call it, not a marquee, but what do you call it?
Information board.
Yeah, the information board as you enter the park.
But is this a requirement that if you have your horse registered or branded or ownership, is this part of something that can be tracked?
There should be records of that deal. I'm relying upon my associate, who's a horse expert, who actually put those requirements in there, but I can't claim I have expertise in that area. But it's put in there really to notify people that if they're gonna bring horses onto the property, they should be properly vaccinated and properly cared for.
Well, the difference between the dogs and the horses, obviously, a dog's required to have a collar on with its tag, showing that it's up to date with its vaccines. Maybe there could be an indication of whoever's gonna bring their horse in there, that they can have proper, papers indicating that it's up to date in its vaccines. Or maybe a small tag on their mane or harness.
I got a lot of people asking, yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Me?
Yep.
Okay, I know I'm not supposed to talk.
You're right, you're right.
I just did, I'm on that land preservation board, so I think what you said, Gary, is right. What it's doing, Dale, is putting the onus on the owner, the responsibility on the owner. It's spelled out, and I think, Ed could probably say if there were problems on the road, at least you've identified what the responsibilities of the people that are coming into the park are. And then down the road, we're looking at maybe, I guess, having somebody to enforce ordinances. So, if there's a complaint, somebody might investigate it, and the people have been apprised ahead of time of this is their responsibility if they want to participate in the park. I think that's the value of it.
Yes. Darrell?
Who's cleaning up after the horses, so the people following them on the path?
That's, you're here,
walking through it?
you're retired. I mean, that's. I can see you doing that now. I will be calling you, Darrell. I got your phone number.
Also, you got the horses are so large versus a person walking down it.
Yeah.
How can that guy or lady rely on that animal's gonna be,
Yeah.
I guess I want to interject here, but I think Jim, why don't you?
Yeah, just a real quickie, can you put a limited time period in which horses can be on it, as certain days and certain hours, as opposed to when other people might be more using the park?
I don't think so. I can't see the park being real busy, all the time, but, go ahead. Somebody else have it? Al?
I guess I would like to ask the question, either Steve or.
Steve. Steve can talk
Okay.
about horses, he's the horseman.
But I've also come back in here and looked at the rules and regulations that you brought into the office when we went over that. And I really didn't see anything in there about horses have to have this EVH vaccination in order to enter this property.
They weren't. In fact, we approved the rules about a year ago, but there was no comment in there about the horses having the vaccination. And, that was just something, it's a recommendation, I guess, as part of this, like your dog should have a rabies shot. As far as the question goes, as far as is there any medical tracking, my daughter has a horse, so I get to pay the vet bills, but there is actual form when the horse is, treated, where they said, here's a list of the shots, here's a list of the tests, and you have to keep that as a matter of record. So if you're gonna take that horse to a show or anywhere, you're supposed to carry that with you, right? Or be able to prove it if you're asked to show it, because horses, like animals, will transfer diseases and stuff like that. So they have to have that record if they are going to shows or, public places.
I guess I don't have a really problem having it put on there, but I do have a problem of just having something there that can't be enforced, or people don't really know, and they come back on there, and if a horse happens to have whatever disease that they're.
The wording could be changed to say recommended that they have these things. You could say that.
I would be in favor of that.
I'd be okay with that.
Yes.
it's the responsibility of the owner.
I have to say, the Land Preservation Board didn't come up with that specific saying. The attorney for Salem Township put that in there, and we're following the attorney's recommendations. So if he recommended that we put it in there, as with anything, we did write the ordinance, and then we sent it to the attorney, and they tweaked it. They took some stuff out, they put some stuff in, and that's, I don't know how much we can nitpick all that. And we're going to have an information board that we can put up any kind of signage that we need to. We're gonna put up the rules. This ordinance, before it becomes an ordinance, has to be published in the paper and in its entirety, so that hopefully everybody will know about it. We can put information in the messenger about this and repeat it if people will read it. But I would think that if you own a horse, which is, it's a big investment, and it's even more of a responsibility than a dog, I would think that they go to vets and they have these vaccinations anyway. But I think it's a recommendation by our attorney, that's all, so that we can follow up if somebody did get a disease from a different horse, that we could find out maybe and keep it from spreading throughout our township. It just seems to be a natural. Thank you.
Okay,
Gary, I just had one other,
Yeah.
maybe two other, and I was gonna make a comment on the horses. What about the impact on the walkways from the horses? Is there gonna be some kind of upkeep?
Those paths that we're planning right now are going to be just grass paths,
Okay,
and they're not going to be running. They're not, these horses are supposed to be walked. And those paths are gonna be at least 12 feet wide. These are not gonna be trails that are just a 3-foot wide, one-person trail. We're hoping to have 12 feet. And then there's gonna be actually space beyond that if you needed it. So I'm not concerned about the paths being so small. I just think it's wonderful that Salem Township has this opportunity. I think we're probably one of the few townships that offer this kind of asset to the public, to be able to bring their horses there. I think it's fabulous. Thank you.
thank you. The only other thing, Gary, I don't know if it's proper or not, or if need be, do the parcel ID numbers need to be, I know they're on page 3 in definitions, but do the parcel ID numbers need to be up here rather than just 235 acres?
No, as long as it's in the definition,
Okay.
it's just the idea that the property has to be defined somewhere in the ordinance.
Okay, all right, good enough, thanks.
One other question I had on page 4, itemized firearms. I'm not necessarily sure, but you can tell me that. Is a crossbow, which is entirely different than a bow and arrow, is that not a weapon? And if you don't specifically spell out crossbow in there, then somebody can go on there with a crossbow and hunt with a crossbow.
There's no hunting. No
I know
hunting
that,
at all. I don't care if you have a slingshot.
but somebody can shoot, somebody can pack a crossbow on there, and as far as I'm concerned, there's no hunting, so there should be no firearms.
Or
You still have,
slingshots, or anything, drones, anything. No.
yeah, I understand that, but I'm trying to come back here and say, if you're singling out rifles, slingshots, all that stuff, a crossbow is a weapon.
Sure.
The same as a bow and arrow, same as a firearm.
We could certainly list anything there the board wants to list there. And make sure it's inclusive of what's prohibited.
It's bow, but a bow and arrow is not the same as a crossbow.
No 118. 37. Semi-automatic.
I can add crossbows.
yeah, let's
That's crossbow.
all right, anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor, in addition to Mr. Lewandowski's manure responsibilities, will you be asking him to take care of refuse receptacles and disposing of the trash as necessary?
But we'll probably do some sort of natural composting thing that will happen. I mean, I don't think you have to have, you know, the landfill people come and pick it up, but if we have in there a statement that if you have trash and there's no trash receptacles, you have to take it away.
Right.
Just like I see all these people who are walking in their parks in Plymouth, they put it in their pocket or in their purse, they take it with. And good luck with, you know, with that with them, so, you know, I wish them well. But,
I guess I'm just asking, are we envisioning that there would be some sort of trash receptacles available as the park gets
I don't,
increased
you know,
usage
like,
over
we
the
have to be
years?
careful about that, because, you know, when you have trash receptacles and there's really no one there, and we can talk about a lot of that stuff, but some people could throw a cigarette butt into that, and then we'd have a trash burn. You know how people do that in the public? So we're better off if we minimize trash, because it wouldn't just be human, or animal waste and dog waste, it would be, you know, their cups and paper. I don't know that answer exactly.
Yeah, I think, I would envision something, you know, at the entrances or something, you know, whatever, just, that'd be something that we can talk about.
Administrative detail that
Yes,
we'll
yes.
figure out,
You know, the purpose mainly, of this thing, I want to be clear about is, you know, for the people that live around the park there and the property, to ensure that we do have an ordinance that we can enforce, to have our sheriffs and people to do something. Because a lot of times, if you don't do this, you can't enforce it. So this gives the opportunity for our deputies to enforce what needs to be done out there. But again, I still want to make the comment that this property, I don't know, I'm sure most of you know where it's at, but there were a lot of problems over there before the township bought it, and Mr. Schaefer lives, kind of backs up to it, which he can vouch for that. There was a lot of problems that were going along the pond there, and parties and bonfires and everything, and that really has stopped. And so it's been good, and all the neighbors seem to be watching, and so we're excited. So we're hoping that this gets off the ground here the 1st of June, right? So we're looking forward to that grand opening. Okay, anything else?
I'll advise Clerk Wednesday, I did find 3 small typographical errors that need to be corrected.
Okay, anything else? Okay, do we need to have a roll call vote on this? I would take it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so the roll call vote will start with Converse.
Yes.
Daniel is absent. DeLuca.
Yes.
Laughlin.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Wensley. Yes. And Whitaker.
Yes. Okay, moving down to the resolution, historic districts, Mr. Trent.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to move that the Township Board adopt Resolution 2016-04-12-02, or whatever number the clerk designates, that's appropriate, in light of the other resolutions that have been adopted earlier tonight. In opposition of Michigan House Bill 5232 and Senate Bill 720, that's for the purpose of supporting currently designated and future designated local historic districts under Public Act 169 of 1970 as submitted, and direct the clerk pending adoption to direct the resolution to the appropriate legislators in both the Senate and House committees that have purview over this proposed legislation. And I'd be happy to share a couple comments, Mr. Supervisor, once it's officially on the floor for discussion.
right, do we have a second on this? DJ seconds it. Discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, earlier this year, legislation was introduced in the House and the Senate regarding local historic districts. And this legislation, which a copy of has been included in your board package for your review, would dramatically impact current local historic districts as they're currently established. And it's just part of the background and information for your deliberation and consideration is that when something of this nature comes up, it's often interesting to find out just how did this legislation come into being, who germinated it. And I came across an interesting article out of the Ann Arbor News that talked about the birth of this legislation, and it actually got generated from a group of people in East Grand Rapids, and their respective legislators introduced it in their respective chambers. And I've had the opportunity to go to East Grand Rapids. If you're ever there, I highly recommend a restaurant that you should stop at called Roses on Reed Lake. Very picturesque venue. The food is great, the ambiance is ideal. But we're not here to talk about my restaurant picks of the week. We're here to talk about this resolution. When this legislation was introduced, a number of communities, especially those that have established historic districts, cities like Northville and other communities have adopted similar resolutions to send to their respective state representatives and senators, as well as the committee members from both chambers, expressing their concern about this legislation. We have had the opportunity to see that adopted by our neighboring community in Northville Township as well. And I can certainly appreciate the concern that the legislators are bringing forward, where they're indicating that people that live in historic district communities might bear exorbitant cost in trying to comply with the maintenance and upkeep of their homes that are located in historic districts. And but there are a couple provisions in this proposed legislation that are very concerning, especially on pages 16 and 17 in the legislation that deal with election requirements, where once a local historic district is established, it has to go back before the electorate every 10 years. And this is an onerous responsibility that's being forced upon local communities, and I think it's a dictate that needs to be pushed back and force the proponents of this legislation to come up with something that might be more palatable to their constituents going forward. So I would encourage the board to join other communities and other organizations that have expressed their stance against this proposed legislation. And through the input, I should add, of the Salem Area Historical Society, primarily Terry Swift, the president, he has helped with the input of this resolution that we have before us today. I think it's very fine because it does talk about our concerted efforts working with Washtenaw County to establish local historic districts in our community.
All right, Mr. Trent, any other discussion?
Is this bill an immediate type of concern, or are we talking months out?
It's probably months out. It's still in committee. It has not come out of committee for votes, and probably part of the reason for that is the ongoing feedback from communities to their legislators. But you never know.
Right, that's true. Any other discussion? All right, we should take a roll call on this.
The roll call starting with Converse.
Yes.
Daniel is absent. DeLuca,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker.
Yes. right. I think that's a good job. Thank you, Mr. Trent, for following up on that one. Okay, so we're down to Mr. Converse on investment policy.
Okay, I move that Salem Township approve the updated investment policy that is recognized by the Michigan Township as attached.
Support.
Okay, discussion? Anybody?
It's just indicated draft in here again.
Yes, that, it is a draft until it's actually voted upon. So
Okay.
after it's voted upon, if we do it tonight, that will be taken off before it's actually published, and the dates and all that stuff will be updated.
All right, thank you.
And I've advised Mr. Converse via email of a couple of small grammatical
Sure.
typos that can be fixed.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's passed. Mr. Converse on the employee assistance plan.
I move that Salem Township approve the voluntary assistant program as described by the Salem Township Fire Department Union Agreement.
Support.
Just as a word of affirmation after the comments that I made last month, what this was is I actually took this back because this was a rough draft that was given to me, and I didn't do enough due diligence at that time. But what I did do is I did go back before the insurance policy. I gave them a copy of this assistance program to make sure that everything that we're saying in here lines up exactly with what the policy states and what it is. So this now, and there was a couple of them that wasn't quite right. So they have been corrected from last month. So this is in total agreement with what the contract says, as well as for what our union contract says, but also from what the insurance as well.
Anybody else?
Mr. Supervisor, if I could also add that this was a benefit of changing our insurance policy. This is basically a no-cost addition that we picked up when we picked up a firefighter insurance policy. So be a great benefit for the firefighters should they need it. It's a confidential counseling from everything from addiction to some of the things that we see if necessary. So I think it's a great service for the guys and gals if they ever needed it. And all they would get is a report that they contacted them. Total confidentiality between the firefighter or his family and the healthcare workers that would provide the support should the need arise.
And there's one other aspect to this too, is that we are now making, as part of the contract, that the firefighters will have to go through an annual physical, and drug screening is part of that physical. And should they not pass the drug test, we need to have this policy in place in order to complement the insurance policy, to give that worker the protections that he can get the help, or they can get the help that they need without going through dismissal and all the other stuff. So this basically is really foreign assistance to the policy as well as to the contract.
Okay. All right. You have a second on that already? Correct. Mr. Trent? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. All right, we're down to the, Mr. Trent on the data logger purchase.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, board members, we have a couple of maintenance-related items to the wastewater treatment plant I'd like to bring forward. I move that Salem Township approve the purchase of one ScreenMaster videographic recorder, also known as a data logger, and authorize Highland Treatment to install the device per the attached quote for $2,595.81 as part of the Part 41 application project.
I'll second that.
Mr. Winsley seconds it. Any discussion on this?
Board members, you'll recall last month when we adopted adopted our final budget, we talked about the $50,000 that was budgeted for the Part 41 application completion. This is one small element of that. One of the things that Stantec Engineering recommended, and even Highland Treatment, was that we incorporate this data logger that automatically records on a daily basis the amount of flow through the wastewater treatment plant system. Currently, it's all done on a manual basis, so if somebody happened to be sick one day, or, doesn't check it for, 36 hours, we don't have a true day-to-day accuracy of what's going on through the treatment plant. So this is one device that was recommended, it was even part of the EMQ.
Would this be real time, or is this, just once a day? Or how, or this is average numbers, what kind of data does this, put out?
I think it's just every 24 hours, it automatically records. And it's a minimal cost to ensure that, we're getting that kind of data.
Okay, any other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. All right, now to the grinder pump. Mr. Trax.
I move that Salem Township approve the purchase of 2 grinder pumps, accessory components, and installation per the attached quote from Highland Treatment in the amount of $4,026 for wastewater treatment repairs to the 6 Mile Chubb Road Station.
I'll second that again.
Lenslie seconds it. Discussion?
This repair project is not directly related to the wastewater treatment plant itself, but Highland Treatment has indicated that there is a need for pump repairs and replacement at the 6 Mile Chubb Station, and this will rectify that situation.
On that permit, Steve, were you out there with me with the engineers? Are we gonna be up to date with the DEQ now for implementing everything that we had talked about with the wastewater treatment plant?
Well, thank you for asking that question, Mr. Supervisor. I have in my hands, not formerly nicotine stained, by the way,
Yeah.
a quote from Highland Treatment for just under $18,000 to take care of the other part of the equation for the Part 41 application. They were trying to get another quote, they had a vendor come out, that vendor opted not to quote. I am waiting for Stantec to review this quote to see if there's any engineering-related review costs that we need to incorporate into this quote. So we'll be bringing this to the table next month, and that will complete the project.
Okay. Mr. Wensley, okay, any other discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Last are Mr. Trent on the life pack.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that Salem Township approve the bid from Physio Control Inc. in the amount of $8,378.30 for 3 Life Pack AEDs and $930.45 for 1 LP 1000 trainer for the fire department as described in the attached invoices, quotes, and approve them as a sole source contract provider of this type of equipment because they are the only authorized supplier in the state of Michigan.
I'll support.
Congress supports.
And I'm sure we'll all recall our discussion from the other month when we approved 4 of these devices with our amended budget for the fire department a couple months ago. And now that we're into a new budget year, this is the completion of getting the other 3 so that all of the fire vehicles are properly equipped with the latest and greatest.
And Chief, where are these all going to be located at?
So those will be, one will be in each of our fire apparatuses, so every township vehicle that's in the fire department will now have one. And I call your attention, we've taken the older ones and we installed it here in the town hall.
Right.
So anybody can use these AEDs, so we've got, people have meetings in here, outside of the board meeting, so that now we have one at the town hall. That's in the box just behind the sign. We're gonna get a sign up here, a little bit of instructions. You don't have to be trained in it. They pretty much walk you through it. We just ask that you call 911 if you use it, so we can come and give you some more advanced assistance. But we do now have one at the town hall, since with the first 4 purchases, we pulled one of the old ones, put it in a box here. These 3 would complement the other trucks that don't have them right now. And of course, the trainer would update us with matching what we have that we can train on. We also use that for community. We also train in the community, so citizens would benefit from that and the CPR AED training that we provide.
So there's no reason not to come to the meetings.
Don't feel
If
good.
you don't feel good, we can take care of you right here. Butch? Shock of your day. All right, moving on down, we have the clerk's revenue expenditure reports. Oh, we didn't vote on it. All right, we got a second, right?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Now we're down to the clerk revenue expenditure report, treasurer's report, and we're down to the fire department. Chief Rockwell.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I have a few things I want to cover today. The first thing I'll call to your attention is the runs that we had for the month of March. We had 60 calls for assistance, which is double our normal call volume. I think part of that's based due to the weather. There's a few notable calls I wanted to talk about. One was we had a structure fire in basically was unattended stove. They put some food on the stove, went to bed or took a nap, and then the food caught on fire, which caught the kitchen cabinets above it on fire. Thankfully, another member came into the house and noticed that the kitchen was on fire, gave us a call. We were able to limit that fire to the kitchen and before it got into the floor bucket. The second thing I'd like to call to your attention is we had a wire down in Tower Road that spanned probably half a mile to a mile. It was pretty difficult to get to. It caught the field on fire, and it was limiting our access to get to the field to put the fire out, which is on Tower Road, right underneath the power wires themselves. And we did have some citizens have some of their appliances blown because of the down Edison wire. Two other things I wanted to call your attention to. We did have a car fire on M14 on Friday at rush hour. So basically going westbound, we shut westbound down for about 20 to 25 minutes before, while we put that car fire out. Reason being, part of that is that as soon as we put water on it, basically the smoke obscures the entire freeway. And the worst thing you can have is one lane open, people can't see where they're going, and then us moving around that speeding traffic. I'm trying to work with HVA in the county on Nixle dispatches. That would have been a perfect time to do a Nixle dispatch. The freeway was backed up, I believe, to I-275. So pretty much a mess on Friday evening, which people don't like to see. The last thing was that we had a reported hazardous material spill at 8 Mile in Napier. It turned out to be in west of us, which would be, of course, Wayne County. Wayne County responded. It turned out to be green dye used by the county for testing, but they didn't notify anybody that they were doing that. I believe people drove by or the neighbors saw the green dye in the creek over there and kind of had a little bit of a concern what the heck was in the river. We responded, but we canceled. If anybody had any concerns about that, what that was basically a green dye used to trace where sewers go, and a little bit of a concern. It turned out to be no hazmat. The other thing that I'd like to talk about is our tanker. Our tanker is scheduled for delivery at the end of this month. Put on your desk the latest pictures I was able to download yesterday. You'll see that it's quite far along the process. There's a couple pictures in here that aren't totally in sequence, like the body of the truck on the last page. Just kind of shows you that it's separated from the tank. But you'll put a little bit of a description with each of the pictures. You don't see any of the striping in the nameplate. That'll be last process involved. Basically what will happen is we'll go out to the the site, Eddie, Rohoff, Ryan and myself, we put all the specs together. We'll literally open the book up, starting with page 1 on the specifications, and for 8 hours, we'll walk down that truck, making sure every nut and bolt was put together like we asked it to be done. We did, as the construction occurred, we did do some arrangements and some adjustments with our engineers, and so those are all written documents. So so far we're on the plus side of it. What the final cost of it will be, I expect it to be under cost. We're not on time, and that's basically due to delivery of trucks and orders, not within our control. Is there any questions on the truck? We expected to see it probably the first week of May. It'll be down here. If you've been in the fire station, you've seen a ton of hose and parts of the truck. Well, when it comes back, it goes to the local shop that loads the hose, installs like the wrenches and little ancillary parts. And that'll be basically a turnkey truck. Should be able to, once we get it from the local dealer, should be able to put water on it, and it should be able to go. So looking forward to that. We'll obviously show that off when it gets here. It's got to come from Nebraska, so it's a little bit of a drive.
Do they drive it or do they ship it on a?
Nope, it's driven. So Ryan will actually, one of the local and Ryan will drive it back. And they all kind of want to have their hands on the new truck. It's put the first 1,000 miles on it. So and that's what they'll do. So come back, tighten all the bolts when it gets to the dealership. Put some, good 600 miles or whatever it takes to get here. Thank you for approving the AED, the trainer. We've already used the new ones. In less than a month, we've used them on patients already, twice. The last question I have is that we've lost 2 firefighters. I do have a candidate that's made application about a year ago. We sat on his application because he didn't have his medical license. He's gone back and got his medical license. I'd like the board's opinion on the ability for me to hire these firefighters, or what the board's thoughts are on how they would like to pursue the hiring of firefighters. I'll call to your, I guess to your recollection, about 3 or 4 years ago, a study was done. It was recommended 28 firefighters be allocated for Salem Township Fire Department to meet the need. We're at about 24 right now. I'd like to recommend that we at least consider hiring this gentleman. He lives in the modular home across from our modular home park on 8 Mile. So he's local. He's passed the physical and background checks. He's got a bachelor's and an associate's degree, and he's eager to respond. He's available to respond after hours. I'd like the board, can I hire these, or do you want me to go through your approval? I'd like your opinion on some of the feedback on that. That's all I have to report, unless the board has questions for myself.
This one individual, what is his hours like? Is he available during the day or at night?
Yes, so he works part-time. He is available day and night, except for the hours he's working 24 hours a week. So outside those hours, he's available. He's a young man, and I think he's eager to get into the, he's got an associate's degree in fire science and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So he's eager to get his experience of running and being on a department. So I think this would be a good fit for us as well.
You know, it's always amazing with me, because I hear or get text messages when you guys are called out, and then you're, you know, if it's 2 in the morning, when you just wonder, none of these guys really have to show up. I mean, you know, it's kind of like they do their job and knowing that they're going to get up and get $23 or whatever it is an hour. And it's just, you know, then you wonder, well, what happens if nobody shows up? You know, and you know, you hear from all the people, you know, sometimes I'm sure you get criticism, and like we all do. But it's just marvelous how the group of guys work and respond to all the major things that we've had in this last year. Just not even some of the structure fires. It's impressive to see it. And then, you know, at least I get it, because I'm talking to the people where they're having these disasters happen or whatever, and their feedback is just, they can't thank you guys enough. So
Appreciate it.
we support our fire department.
Thank you.
And I hope all of our folks do, because they do a great job.
Thank you. So Saturday's a perfect example, 1 o'clock yesterday, this last weekend when we had the snow coming down, Superior had a structure fire over there by Curtis and Warren Road, just off of M14. We had 4 neighboring departments respond. I don't think I got home till 5 in the morning. And that's, you know, that's snowing out there, sleeting, raining. It's pretty tough to get out of a nice warm bed. But they do, and so I will thank the guys. I appreciate your guys' support. Vehicles like this help us out tremendously. Thank you.
All right, Chief. Oh, yep.
Well, to Chief Rockwell's request, I'd like to move that the board authorize Chief Rockwell to hire 1 firefighter to replace the recent resignations and retirements of staff.
Okay. I'll second it. Okay, any other questions about that?
Could I add a friendly amendment for our legal advice? He suggests that provide a name, and the name is Robert Nesmith.
Spell that last name?
Give me a second. Oh, it's going to be N-E-M-E-T-H, Nesmith.
N-E-S?
N-E-M-E-T-H. I better have my glasses on.
Yeah, okay.
N-E-M-E-T-H, Robert. M as in Mike.
Yep.
One other question, I think maybe, if we interviewed him prior to, but with the new contract in place, the hiring process has changed from what we had with the old contract to the new contract. I guess this is a question for you, Ed, is, can we go off underneath the old recommendation from the old contract, being that he's going to be hired in off underneath the new contract?
Well, the board still has the ultimate authority to hire new firefighters. And as I understand, this individual went through the process previously, correct?
Correct.
But he was not chosen because he didn't have necessary medical training, so he's now completed the necessary medical training. And now Chief has brought it back in front of the board for his approval.
My understanding is that we're deferring to the new contract, which gives Chief Rockwell the authority to hire firefighters as long as he has permission from the board to fill vacant slots in which he's come forward to fill a slot.
Yeah, but there was also some testing and some other stuff that was involved in that.
For promotions, yes.
And that's where I was kind of wondering, but I don't have a problem with it, I just wanted to make sure that we are legal with the new contract.
Yes, this would be in line with the contract.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
All right. Our law enforcement has been enclosed and submitted. And now we're down to board discussion. Down to the roads. You gonna live on a dirt road around here? So, were they out around your house today? Yeah.
On Brookville?
On Brookville?
North, or east of Curtis Road.
Luke, were they down by your,
They didn't do Salem Road, but they did do
Right.
Brookville
They're getting there,
and
so
Weed
they're
Road.
they're on the way, so.
Well, the roads are the worst they've been since we lived up here. It's a bad winter.
They're, you know, like, they were really gonna start, like, last week or a week and a half ago, and then it just, like, these rains, it just really hindered them.
There's good foot deep holes at the Curtis and the Brookville, or not Curtis, but Brookville and Tower. Foot deep easy at that intersection.
So they're out there now, and,
Are they planning on doing this township wide, or is it just selected roads? or-
no, all the roads that need to be gravelled and.
Are they gonna bring material in?
Well, that's kind of what we're discussing on what they're gonna do this year to different parts of the roads. We have not voted on their, first, the only feedback we have gotten back is on some of the roads in the hamlet here that we know the county is going to do from Curry Road to Chubb Road. And then also, we've asked them to do Salem Road from 6 Mile up to where the pavement ends past the school. So we're thinking that since they are going to be in the hamlet area redoing the roads through here, which are a disaster through here, to take care of the other roads that are in the hamlet, which would be, this is Dickerson here, right? Dickerson plus Salem Road. So while they're here, which they're saying it would save us some money if we did it all at the same time and get it done. The other thing that they're recommending that that we would have to pay for would be the curb and gutter aspect of all the entrances going on 6 Mile from each of the roads to give us not only a wider, but to drain properly and having some curb as you're going down some of these streets that are in the hamlet here that would be, it would really look nice and kind of spruce up the hamlet a little bit as far as the roads are concerned. Just some of kind of the estimates they threw at us so far is the curb and gutter along from Curry to Chubb Road would run about $70,000 to $80,000 more to put into that. The curb, let's see, curb and gutter along, let's see, 6 Mile and Dickerson would be $36,000. Now that would be overtising the road, shaping it, and compacting, putting asphalt, 3.5 inches of asphalt along with the curb and gutter. It'd be a total of $36,000 to do out here behind me. To do Salem Road, 6 miles south is about 1,690 feet. We're looking at $99,000. That's for curb gutting and pulverizing and doing that whole road. So, we haven't met with them yet, and we expect some other estimates to come in. We are looking at the 6 Mile and Chubb Road area. They talk about the going up Chubb Road about 800 feet with all the dirt that's coming off the 6 Mile, with all the problems that we've had with the mud and the dust down on that road, is roughly about $70,000 to $80,000. And that also includes curb and gutter down at that end. We are still working on, and the board members, and all I can say is that something has to be done on Chubb Road. And what we really are working on, I know Dale's working a lot on this also, I have been working on it, is that the section of Chubb Road in 6 Mile going south to 5 Mile in Chubb to be paved, and then that the rest of it going to Napier Road heading east to be paved, so that can kind of create a truck route of getting trucks in and out and using that road instead of using 6 Mile. When we had the issue with Kalo and Sons, the operation going on down there, one of the residents on the road, they started to use that road as we just talked about paving, and it does make a huge difference of all the trucks that are on that road. If you take Kalo and Jackie's and R&R, Iron Horse, all the trucks that are on that road, this would be a route that needs to be done. So all I'm saying is that we're looking into it, and I think we need to decide what we need to do. The business owners, I would say most of the business owners we've talked to, it's gonna improve their properties. I think we need to have the discussions with them to figure out if there can be a special assessment on it. you know, talk about the county and the township and all looking at it to improve that area, which is, in my opinion, has been really neglected over the years. Something needs to be done with that road and try to control the traffic that's on there. A lot of it was to do about Kalo and Sons and all the stuff that went on in the last few months, but it's about a lot of other trucks on that road too. It's just something that needs to be addressed, and we do need to do something about it. So I know our goal is, Dale and I've been working hard on it, and I think we got the county involved also, and they're coming up, or Dale's come up with a plan from the MTA, some different ideas, and we're working with the county to say, hey, this might be a really good thing to do to get it done, so. That's, go ahead.
I'd just like to add to Gary's comments, going back through and trying to get a handle about what the exact distance is and trying to get some other things. Went back down there and traveled it last week when it was raining, and I was absolutely appalled to find out and see what was really going on. There's trucks lined up in the mornings, and I've talked to one individual down on the corner of Chubb and 5 Mile. He says there's trucks lined up, bumper to bumper, almost all morning long, coming back up that 5 and coming up that road. And when I was coming up there was trucks, and I got a little car and a nicer car, and I'm not going down there 50 miles an hour, but I had trucks blasting by me. I had people blowing their horns, trying to get me to move out so they can get around. The mud was about 1.5 inches thick, and what it is, they turn and they go into their respective iron horse, jackies, Kalos. That's fine. And we say, well, we think we want to pave from 6 Mile down to Kalos because he's it. Wrong. People from Jackie's Trucking, from R&R, from all these other trucks, when they go north, they have to go through all of that mud, and 800 feet of pavement is not going to stop the mud from getting out on 6 Mile. Those trucks are coming through there, and there's a lot of mud that's being packed in there, and if you really want to do it, just go down there when it's raining, and you'll find out what a mess it is. It is a problem that we need to take a very big, long look at to see what the solution here is, because the dust and the dirt on that 6 Mile is a major, major, major issue. And I think we need to be proactive in looking at what all our alternatives are. And I've been working with Gary and a lot of different alternatives we're going to be doing. And it's going to be a longer process, but we're already starting to see what we need to do, and we're starting to get some of the things together to find out exactly what it is, what it's going to actually cost us, what we can get back to the owners of the road down there, what shares that they will be going through too. So it's going to be a longer process, but it's something that has to be done and has to be done soon, because if we wait around all summer, it'll be next summer before we do it. The other thing that I would mention to you, everybody in here should probably know, but part of the Road Funding Act that was voted in last year, part of that came back in and says if the township pays over 50% of the cost of the road, we can have competitive bidding. And that is, and it's part of PA 181 and 182. And I've got those, if anybody wants to see it, I have copies of them. And the county is well aware of it, and the county is backing us, and they come back and say something needs to be done, we'll be behind you. So it is, well, we're getting support from the county, we're getting support from the businesses, and I think it's something that we just really need to really get our arms around here and start moving on.
So come May, I think we will have some proposals to the board. The other is the county has proposed on our dirt roads, as we're talking about adding limestone and improving some of the dirt roads. So we want to address them, and we should have them figures for you at our next meeting, what needs to be done. Our other communities, Superior Township and also Northfield Township, they have not heard back from yet, so we're still waiting for that, which they would partner, and I think if they will partner, then it's a good time to get it done. So, any more discussion on the roads? Okay, all right, then moving on down to discussion, Salem Springs Committee update. I don't know where we want to start on this one. The only comment that I'd like to just let the board know is basically the utilities to the USD, which has been an issue for a lot of years. It's something that every board, I think even in the past, has, it's somewhat frustrating to figure out, okay, if you're gonna develop it, who's gonna pay for it? And we've made it perfectly clear that the township is not going to pay for the infrastructure that needs to come over there. The concern I know the committee has is that when the infrastructure does come there, that we are ready and we know exactly what needs to be put in there and what kind of engineering and what kind of ordinance to create to say what kind of infrastructure, how it's to be, what the standards are to be. Because what I've been told, that there really are not the standards, that somebody can come in and say, well, we'll put this in, but these aren't up to the standards. So we need to make sure our engineers, I think there's other communities that are right around us that have standards, that we need to create an ordinance to make sure that if that does, that they are done right. The really fearful thing, and I have to be honest with you, that I'm worried about is that the capacity for that 1,400 acres in the USD is the capacity of sewer and water. We already know that the sewer, or the water, is available. I mean, that's not a problem and hasn't been a problem. So if they want to pay for it, they can get it from Detroit Water and it's there to make that connection. But the real issue is the sewer. And as you know, the past board worked a lot on this, and also we kind of, when we came into term, worked on it. The contract with Yucca and Ypsilanti about that would be a sure thing of enough capacity to serve the whole USD. And but again, it's about who's gonna do this. We're not gonna do it. We're waiting for them to come up with a plan how they're going to pay for this infrastructure. So what we've been hearing, we all know Plymouth Township, there was a possibility of going to Plymouth and extending their utilities over to that area. But we have been insisting that if that happens, it has to service the whole USD, not just certain developers' projects that they have. So we tried to make it very clear to them that it's gotta be the whole USD. You know, there could always be a battle that if they're ready to go and they just have enough for theirs, well, it's, you know, anything can happen, we don't want it to happen. So, it's gotta be for the whole USD. So, the other rumor that was out there, that now that things are starting to turn around, that Yucca now from the other communities their demand is up and there is more, they want more capacity, other communities. So now the question could be out there that we don't have enough to service Salem Township or the USD. So, and that could be, I believe, could be just a mess for our township, because we do not want a wastewater treatment plant or somebody coming, I mean, we already know we have this little wastewater treatment plant in the hamlet here that's costing us thousands of dollars. It's not paying for itself, and as it gets older, it's just more and more maintenance on it. And, you know, we're responsible, the DEQ comes in, gives us violations, we just don't wanna be in that business. So, the best, you know, is Yucca going, you know, we know the capacity's there, and we feel that we have to figure out some way to secure that capacity before it goes away, and then we have nothing. So then, if you remember some of the arbitration that's been won in the past there, that their developers are allowed to put well and septic. You know, we can't be having a hodgepodge mess over there. This needs to be one way, and we need to be proactive and figure out how we have the capacity. If the developers want to pay for it, they can bring the infrastructure in, and then as long as the developments are right that will go and fit in over there, all right, but we can't have a wastewater treatment on one side, or have sewer and water on the other side, and then have maybe yuck on the other side. It just, you know, how, it's gonna be a mess, and that's where we're at right now, because they haven't made any decisions, they haven't really made any, financial, ways of trying to fund it. And, they're still looking, and I think we're always willing to listen, but again, it's gotta be for the whole USD. And I think we need to protect ourselves down the road here if something comes in, but if we don't have capacity or can't get it from Yucca, we're in trouble. So I think that's what we need to figure out. Any other comments from the committee?
Obviously, with the assistance of legal counsel, we're going to apprise the board of some things in closed session from Mr. Plato's memorandum to us. But, you know, it was surprising as it refreshed my memory looking at the original draft contract when we went to visit Yucca. And Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, it really was September 2013, not 14?
Actually, what we completed negotiation on the contract before May of 2013, so it's been in place for over 3 years unsigned.
And then, you know, so there's been that avenue that's been available. And Gary mentioned the rumors that maybe Yucca did not have the capacity anymore to service Salem. We've been able to determine that that rumor is not true. And so we want to update the board on some strategies on where we want to go forward from here, and how we want to play ball with any developers in the USD. And the intent is to, you know, bring information into a public forum next month, pending our discussion tonight.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may, you and Trustee Trent have done a great job of covering everything. You haven't left a lot for me to talk about, but I just wanted to remind the board that we spent over a year negotiating a contract with Yucca, and that was finally came to approval sometime in early 2013. In fact, Yucca went to the county commissioners approved the contract, and it was up to the township board to take a look at it and approve it. And at that time, the developers came to the township and said, well, hold off, we've got another way that's maybe cheaper to provide sewer to the USD, and that was through Plymouth Township. And there was some real benefits to the township of doing that. So we explored that option, and it looked to be promising for a while, but ultimately the Plymouth Township Board voted against that. We have also explored getting getting sewer through the Great Lakes Water Authority, which is formerly the Detroit Water and Sewer, through Wake County, through Watua, and even Ann Arbor, because all those had been suggested as possible sources for sewer service. All those proved to be dead ends. They've all indicated that either they can't do it now, or if they can do it, it would be 5 or 6 years down the road, and also at great expense. And to put in the infrastructure to bring those to the township would be even more expensive than going through Yucca. So that leaves us really at this point with the only option available for sewer service. As you mentioned, Mr. Supervisor, water is not a problem. We can get that through Great Lakes Water Authority. But the sewer is an issue. The only option available to the township now is through Yucca. And although the engineers for Yucca have indicated that currently we do have capacity, they can't guarantee that that capacity is going to be there even 2 or 3 years down the road. So we have the lease agreement we negotiated 3 years ago provides that the township can, without entering into a full-fledged purchase of capacity, we can enter into a lease agreement where we can reserve capacity at this time, where we would be paying a very small percentage of Yucca's operating cost, and I'm not sure what it is today. In 2013, it was less than $30,000 a year. So we have to get those exact figures. But we can reserve that capacity. We can reserve initially a 0.3 MGD that would supply the initial demands of the township and the USD, with the right to also grow into a full 1 MGD, which would supply the entire USD. So the benefit to the township, obviously, is we can pay for a fairly minimal expense, approximately $30,000 a year. We can reserve that capacity and have that locked in and guaranteed, so when we are ready to go forward, it's there and available to us, and nobody can take that away from the township. The risk of not entering into a Yucca contract at this time is obviously anybody can come in and grab up that capacity from Yucca, and it may simply not be available. And as supervisors indicated, if it's not available from Yucca and any other source, we're in a situation where we have to have multiple sources providing, maybe some from Plymouth, some from someplace else, or worst case scenario, we have several wastewater treatment plants within the USD, which the township ultimately has to maintain and pay for. So it seems to me that at a fairly minimal expense at this point, we can enter into this lease agreement with Yucca, reserve that capacity so we have a guarantee that it's available, and then we can take our time, we can go ahead with talking with these developers in the USD and say, here's what's available. We have a contract with Yucca. If you want to build the infrastructure to bring that into your development, go ahead and build it. It's not going to be at the cost of the township, it's going to be at their cost. But in the meantime, we guarantee that the township has the capacity through Yucca to service the entire urban service district. That's why the committee, and we met with the engineers and with the township planner, and we've all recommended that to the township that we ought to look at this contract again with the idea of actually entering into the contract this time around.
And if development does come, we can figure out how to charge that back.
Yeah, the plan would be even the money we're paying to reserve capacity, we would try and figure a way to charge that back to the developers. In fact, we have a clause in the lease agreement that we don't even have to pay that capacity reserve money up front. We can even defer that for 3 years. So we tried to build everything possible into the contract to protect the township. But I think we have a better contract with Yucca than any other township in Washington County. I think I can safely say that we're very well protected, however we decide to go forward on this. But I think that the point is, at this point, we need to enter into the contract to reserve that capacity to make sure we have the USD protected for sewer service.
Okay. So we need to be proactive, we just gotta make sure we protect that area and do the right thing. So. Okay, any other discussion? All right, if not, we're down to public comment. Dennis?
Yeah, I was listening to you and another board member talking about diverting Kalo's trucks and take them down south on Shub Road. I respect the board and you for suggesting this. Now, what I'm trying to figure out here is if you have, the equipment to force them to do that and go south, why can't you control the trucks from the dump? They have a paved road going south of 5 Mile, which is a bondage road. I live off of Curry, and they just paved that road. Within 2 days of truck traffic, you could bury Volkswagens in there, and you won't even see them. It's getting to be a nightmare. When they take and grade the road and everything else, the young gentleman over there was saying, you can't see them because of the dust. I can't see 20 feet past my front door, and I'm about 150 feet off the road. It is getting a nightmare. And I had called one of the gentlemen at the Advance and everything else. He gave us his phone number and everything else. We took count on the traffic, and it averages 1 for every minute to a minute and a half, 1 truck. And that's just the garbage truck. That's not the flatbeds carrying the trash cans or anything else or any other traffic. And it's getting worse. And the biggest violator is Advance. I mean, if you've got power to control Kalo, why can't you have them go south on, Curry Road. Or Napier Road, I'm sorry. I know, Washington takes care of the roads, but, south of, 6 miles, the bonded road. Wayne County and part of Washington has to take and pay to get that road, taken care of. And it's a nightmare. And I've talked to, Wayne County, they're gonna try to get a, survey company coming out there, resurvey the road because it's way too wide. They're driving in the ditches, they're driving on the front lawn. Coming here with my son this morning, you could see they drove off going south at least 5 feet onto somebody else's property. Not in 1 or 2 spots, but quite a few spots. And I would appreciate if you'd say something to advance and see what we can do with
Did Tom call you back?
Pardon?
Did Tom call you back?
I haven't heard nothing from him.
Because he said he's left you voicemails, so I just want to make sure.
No,
you
I
guys
have it
are
recorded.
connected, so, okay,
On my phone,
Okay.
and
all right,
no message, no nothing.
all right.
And, I mean, to me, what the dump says they're gonna do, they're gonna do the opposite. He said he talked to his truck drivers and everything else. If I had a business and I had drivers that were not obeying my rules, they would be looking for a job. That's my opinion, and I
Thanks,
hope we
Tim.
can do something with it.
All right. Paul?
Yeah, when you're talking curb and gutter, is that gonna be a blacktop curb then, or?
Yeah.
And, will there be a shoulder then, or?
Yeah, it'll, basically, you know, like, I went down the road because I didn't understand what it really means, but I
Yeah.
looked at one yesterday, and it's basically the intersections on like Euclid all the way down here, when you, it'll be curved around there
Oh, just the intersections?
and properly drained, that it goes. And the other issue, we have a meeting this week, with the drain commissioner. The other issue is about the drainage here in the hamlet. It's just horrible, and that's gotta be addressed, which is gonna be another huge price, but we gotta figure something out, especially when they're redoing the road. If there are some of them drains that are going underneath, we gotta get them replaced. So we got to get something so we don't have these flooded basements and everything from these roads out here.
So I'll still have a shoulder to walk on or ride my bike on?
Well, they're telling that to me that it's gonna be a little bit wider than normal, so I'm hoping, because we really
Okay.
do need that. Okay.
Gary, talking about the roads and that, a while back, there was a lady in here with very good concern about the kids crossing 6 Mile Road.
Right.
What can we do, or what can you do to help these people out? Even if you put signs up, you know those signs, kids crossing or something like that?
We had, the school, we talked to the school, because they have the jurisdiction over like, crossing guard or whatever, because I said, well, we even provide the township to have a crossing guard or whatever, pay whatever they pay for a few hours a day. But they ended up being that there's, it was very little. Randy Clark, part of the school board, came back and said that there's just a few kids, and most of them just get in their cars and they're not even crossing the street. So they're looking at it for us. They're supposed to give us a report on it. We've talked about having, well, not necessarily the signs, but just mainly having a crossing guard, if it means that
I
there's.
mean, even for what little money it would cost,
Right.
or what people would ignore it, put signs up there.
Yeah.
You know, if it saves one kid,
Yeah.
you wanna spend thousands here and thousands there, a kid's life is worth more than a road.
Well, the other problem with the signs, you know, you can't hardly get any signs put up by them. It's, as we know, there's people in the room tonight that know what I'm talking about. Some of the signs that they have around here are just, doesn't even make sense. And you can't get them to take it down, you can't touch them.
Like Gary, the money that we spend with the county, it seems like we should be able to force them to do something.
Well,
I mean,
as
and that's
said,
an important sign.
We've recommended to pay for the signs and do, and it's hard to get it done. It's been very frustrating, believe me. But, no, something needs to be done. But what Randy Clark said, that the school will let us know how many kids that there are, and it ended up being they couldn't find too many kids that are even walking, even during the day. They had more of the kids crossing to go to the store when the store was open, But other than that, there's not a lot going on there. What we need down there is some sidewalks on the, direction, on the north side, which, that's the next thing we need to do. So,
And I have noticed quite a few times driving through, the school bus picks up and they drop off here, so they usually ride the school bus from right over here. They only use the school bus from about.
but I think we're willing, and I think from what some of the residents said about it, let's figure something out. And if it means paying for a crossing guard over there, I think that's very inexpensive to get that done. Yes, ma'am.
I'm at 5 Mile and Curry, and I am wondering how to get the landfill to be more responsive to us when we call them to come around and pick up the trash that gets dumped as a result of them being turned away from the landfill. There's been a 2-year accumulation of trash. One of my neighbors called you, and you were kind enough to call the landfill. Next day, everything gets picked up. But I've gone by the landfill myself, and I've asked them
Yeah.
every single spring,
Right.
can you do something
You know,
about this?
and and again, it depends who you talk to over there sometimes, and I'm not, but please call, Ann in our office here.
I've done that too. I do that every year, and nothing gets done.
And
So
let's
I
look
don't
at
know, if
that.
there
Did it
is a
get picked up when
procedure.
I called the other day? On the
Richard called
mattress?
you, and you called them, and they picked up that day. But I've called here and left messages. I've gone there in person, I've come here in
Yeah.
person,
Okay,
and nothing gets done. So I'm just wondering if there,
yeah,
it's just such a huge problem,
Yeah.
and it's horrible.
Yeah.
It just gets worse and worse, and people aren't going to stop. We can't expect them to,
sure.
because they get turned away from, but there has to be, they need to be more responsive, or maybe there needs to be an appropriation for maintenance, just every,
Okay.
and not, not just
No,
once every
it's a
2
good
years.
point, because sometimes it depends who you're talking to down there sometimes, and if they don't have the right person, but,
Yeah, and 20 years ago, they were great. I mean, I'd go down there, and they were out there the next day.
Right.
Because they felt like it was in their
Sure.
best interest to keep all of us, happy in that regard.
okay,
But, okay, thank you.
all right, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Again,
Please.
This is for you. I just would like to ask the residents in here and show of hands, how many people want the dump closed? How many people want the dump closed? About 100%. Interesting. So on that note, you were misrepresented like I was in the newspaper and on the news. So the letter that I give you, Mrs. Heil, states, to Mrs. Heil, you do not have the right to speak for me and my wife ever. On your behalf. You do not even know us at all. We also do not know you or care to know you ever. We do not have a problem with the dump at all. And furthermore, I live in 6 Mile and Tower Road, which is closer than you live to the dump. And I never smell the odor when all my windows are open. So thank you for your respect, Ken and Tina.
okay. Next. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I just wanna thank you for getting those signs up on Salem Road for the no trucks.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
How long did that take?
About 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
I'm not kidding, 6 or 7 years, and we've been constantly calling, we've had weight masters pull our trucks over. It's ridiculous, but thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I just want, can I just ask a question?
Mr. Hill.
When I look at a lot of the trucks, the state of repair of the trucks that are driving around our neighbourhoods, how often are they pulled over and inspected and tested? Because
Every year.
I think they need to be done a lot more regular.
Yeah, you have an annual inspection every year.
But someone's got to start taking responsibility.
Right.
And it's a disgrace, and in particular, what's been shed from these trucks. I don't want to start putting cameras out, but I'm on the verge of doing it. they've got a responsibility. And I think that they should be forced to comply with ensuring that they're complying with the various road traffic acts. One, that don't appear, a large number of them, displaying their plates properly because they're covered in garbage. You know, I'd like to see squad cars literally sitting on top of them and just pulling them over one by one. And the excessive speed that they seem to be going through at the moment is downright dangerous, because there's no way that those can stop in an emergency. And, you know, I'm not here to have World War III with them, but I'm sorry, they've got a civic responsibility, and it's about time they were taken and told, you will respond to calls within X number of hours. You will do this. You will force every truck that's coming in there to comply. Otherwise, we'll just put inspectors on your, police on your gates, and that would completely close down your operation. Well, I've only been here for a short time, but I'm winding up.
All right, thanks, Mark. Thank you. Thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Okay, anybody else? All right.
Oh, and I just want to say thank you for the historic district thing.
You're welcome.
Full support, even though I suffer from it. But there is a need to have some dialogue to come up with a better structure for how we manage historic buildings, as I own 2 of them. Thank you.
All right, very good. Well, thanks everybody. We have some new people tonight. You can hang around for a few minutes and refreshments. Appreciate everybody being here, and looking forward to seeing you next